Clicking the domain icon will take you to the domain center where all of your domains are listed. To the right of the domains, you will see a description of the domain, followed by the number of active calls that domain currently has, how many of those calls are external, and the total number of users on the domain. Then, to the right of the number of users, the Manage icon is displayed. By clicking on the Manage icon, a drop-down is displayed with all of the functions available to the domain. The Edit icon will allow you to change any of the options besides the name of the domain that were selected when the domain was created. In order to create a domain, click the Add Domain button. Once the Add Domain button has been clicked, the Domain Configuration tab appears. The first tab, labeled Basic, contains the name field. The name can be anything that you would like: the company's name, a customer ID number, or a business telephone number. Once the domain has been configured, the name cannot be changed, so choose wisely. Under the name field is the description field. Here we can add a description to our domain in order to help find this customer or give details as to why the domain was created. The email sender field is the email address that is displayed when a user on the domain receives an email from the phone system. The residential drop-down allows you to configure a domain as a residential domain or an enterprise level domain. Selecting Yes for residential will configure the domain for residential, which will build the domain without a company directory. Since there is no company directory, users of the portal for a residential domain will not have a contacts panel in their portal either. It will not allow users to press a voicemail escape key and be forwarded if they reach a voicemail box, nor can they press pound to check the voicemail remotely. Selecting residential with the No option will create the domain as an enterprise level domain, which will create the domain with a company directory. Users of the domain will have a contacts window in their portal. Callers will be able to use the escape key to exit the voicemail, and users will have the ability to check voicemail remotely by pressing the pound key. You do not need to create a domain for every residential customer. In fact, it is best practice to create one residential domain or a few that are broken into specific categories, such as geographical locations, and create your residential customers as users in that domain. For enterprise level customers, you will want to create their own domain for each customer. The status option with the active and lock allows for you to control if that domain is able to make calls. If the status is active, users in the domain will be able to send and receive calls and make changes to their accounts. If the status is locked, users will not be able to place calls or make changes to their account. This is helpful during the provisioning of a domain if you do not want people making calls until the setup is complete, or if a customer needs to quickly suspend for abuse or billing issues. Click Next to display the Defaults tab. The Defaults tab allows you to set options that will be applied to users of the domain being built. The dial permission is a specific set of rules of matching numbers applied to the users to prevent or allow them to dial certain telephone numbers. If we select the US and Canada, the users we create for the domain will be able to call numbers within the United States and Canada, however, not 10-digit high toll cost numbers. If we select Deny All, the users will not be able to make any calls, as the numbers they dial would match a pattern set to a deny rule. If we select Permit All, users will not have any restrictions at all and will be able to dial any number. Never select Permit All, as the dial permissions are your best tool to prevent toll fraud if a user's account or device is compromised. If you are unsure what dial permission to select, talk to your system administrator. Inform them the destination their users need to be able to reach, and they will be able to help select the correct dial permission. The time zone drop-down will allow you to select which time zone users will be created in. Next, the system will ask you to select a voicemail transcription service if your system has been configured with voicemail transcription. The area code is the area code that the company will be located in. This area code will be appended to all 7-digit numbers being sent out. The caller name is going to be the name that is displayed on the caller ID information, and the caller ID is going to be the phone number displayed on the caller ID information. You can enable or disable voicemail by simply clicking the checkbox. Next is the Limitation tab. The Limitation tab allows you to select how many active calls the domain is able to have, how many of those calls can be external, the max number of users the domain can have, the max number of departments the domain can have, followed by the max number of conference bridges the domain will be allowed to have. Max auto attendance will set a limit for the number of auto attendants under the domain, and max call queue will set the call queue limit for how many call queues the domain can have. The Recording tab will allow you to select how many gigabytes of storage space a domain has for call recording, or how long the call recording will be held with the max retention length. After the domain is created, you will see it displayed with the option to manage, edit, or delete